Ever feel like you're just drowning in information online?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every time you turn around, there's just more and more and more of it.
Yeah.
And it's not just, funny cat videos or,
Yeah.
the latest memes or anything. This is stuff that really shapes how we see the world, like news opinions,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of things. So today, we are going deep on an article that really got me thinking. It's called Understanding Institutionalized Mind Control and the Role of Digital Manipulation.
Wow.
And it's based on a video that takes a hard look at how modern technology, especially the link between governments and big tech, can be used to control us.
Yeah, it's interesting how subtle it can be. We're not talking about, some like sci-fi mind control beam or anything like that.
Right.
It's more about like nudging us in certain directions,
Yeah.
Using language and technology, and it's happening right under our noses.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit.
Yeah.
The article talks about how these seemingly harmless terms that we hear all the time, like content moderation and community guidelines, can actually be used to mask censorship.
Right.
I mean, on the surface, they sound reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
who's against content moderation, but they can be wielded in ways that silence dissenting voices.
Right.
It's like they're sanitizing the language of control.
Yeah, it's similar to how governments have historically used euphemisms to downplay controversial actions.
Yeah.
Like you remember enhanced interrogation techniques?
Ooh, yeah.
That's just a fancy way of saying torture.
Right.
This kind of language manipulation, it's all about shaping public perception and making the unacceptable seem palatable.
So it's not just about what's being said, but how it's being said.
Right.
And this article goes even deeper, highlighting these two main tactics that are used to control the narrative.
Okay.
Suppression and amplification.
Right. So what's suppression?
Suppression is about making certain content invisible.
Think of it like a digital disappearing act.
Mm.
You might see this with like demonetization on YouTube.
Right.
Creators who challenge the status quo might find their videos suddenly buried in the algorithm or even unable to earn revenue.
Wow.
It's a way to silence without outright banning.
And then there's amplification, which is like cranking up the volume on certain messages, even if they're not that popular organically.
Exactly. This is where algorithms and other digital tricks come into play.
Okay.
Search results can be manipulated to favor certain websites or articles. Social media platforms can use algorithms that prioritize emotionally charged content, even if it's misleading.
Right.
And let's not forget about bot accounts and coordinated campaigns designed to artificially inflate the popularity of certain topics.
The article gives this real-world example, talking about how some social media platforms' algorithms prioritize content that triggers outrage or fear.
Right.
Even if it's not true. It's like they're exploiting our emotions to keep us hooked.
And the more we engage with that kind of content, the more the algorithm feeds it to us.
Right.
Creating a sort of echo chamber where we're constantly exposed to the same kinds of messages.
Which brings us to the personal anecdotes that are shared by the video creator in this case.
Okay.
Because, it's one thing to talk about these tactics abstractly, but hearing about someone's real-life experience with censorship really brings it home.
Sure.
For example, the creator talks about how their videos were demonetized simply because they dared to criticize a powerful tech company.
Wow. Yeah, these personal stories are so important because they illustrate the chilling effect this kind of control can have on free speech.
Right.
Creators start to self-censor, avoiding certain topics altogether for fear of losing their platform or their income.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem.
Yeah, it's like during the pandemic, the creator mentions how even tangentially discussing certain topics could get your content flagged or removed.
Yeah.
And this kind of atmosphere of fear and uncertainty can really stifle open discussion and debate.
It certainly can. And when diverse viewpoints are suppressed, we all lose out.
Right.
We lose the opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue, to challenge our own assumptions, and to arrive at more informed conclusions.
And this leads us to another crucial point, the connection between privacy and free speech.
Okay.
The article emphasizes how modern technology, especially AI, enables unprecedented levels of data collection and analysis.
Yeah, what's striking is the sheer scale of it all.
Right.
Companies and even political operatives can build remarkably detailed profiles of individuals based on their online activity.
It's crazy.
This kind of information can then be used to target them with laser-focused messaging, often without them even realizing it.
Wow.
It's a whole new level of manipulation.
It's unsettling to think that someone out there might know our online habits better than we do.
Mm.
and could be using that information to influence our thoughts and behaviors.
It's like they're playing puppeteer with our minds,
Right.
pulling the strings based on the data they've collected.
Yeah.
It's a level of influence that's both impressive and alarming.
And it goes even deeper.
Yeah.
Right. The article talks about AI-driven polling
Okay.
and how it could potentially skew our understanding of public opinion.
Imagine an algorithm that predicts your political leanings based on your online activity.
Okay.
What you read, what you share, even how long you spend on certain websites.
Wow.
Then imagine that this information is used to weight your responses in a poll.
So you might think you're giving your honest opinion,
Right.
but the algorithm is already shaping the results.
That's the worry. And it's not just about political polls. It's about any survey or data collection that relies on AI to analyze and interpret the results. We need to be aware of the potential for bias and manipulation in these systems.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
And it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this, like we're caught in a web of digital manipulation with no way out. But the article doesn't just leave us there.
Okay, good.
It offers some solutions, some ways to reclaim our digital agency.
And that's what we'll be exploring next, because knowledge is power.
Right.
And understanding how these systems work is the first step towards taking back control.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem. Now for the good stuff. Solutions. The article outlines several ways we can push back against this digital manipulation and regain some control. And one that really stood out to me was embracing pseudonymity online.
Yeah, pseudonymity can be a powerful tool for protecting your identity and speaking more freely.
All right.
Like if you're not tied to your real name, you might feel more comfortable expressing dissenting opinions or exploring controversial topics
Right.
without fear of repercussions.
Like putting on a digital mask.
Right, exactly.
You can engage in these online discussions and share your thoughts
Right.
without the risk of being personally targeted or doxxed.
Yeah, that's the idea. It allows you to separate your online persona from your real-world identity, giving you more freedom to explore and express yourself.
The article also stresses the importance of diversifying our information sources.
Right.
It's so easy to get stuck in an echo chamber
Yes.
where we're only exposed to information that confirms our existing biases.
Yeah, breaking out of those echo chambers is crucial.
Right.
We need to actively seek out different perspectives, even if they make us uncomfortable.
Right.
That means going beyond the algorithms that curate our news feeds and exploring alternative media outlets, independent creators, diverse voices.
You know, I've been trying to be more conscious of this myself. Like I've started following people on social media who have different political views than me. And I've been making an effort to read news from sources outside of my usual bubble.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
It's all about challenging our own assumptions and being open to new ideas.
Another practical step the article suggests is seeking out privacy-oriented communities and tools.
Right.
I admit this is an area where I could definitely do more.
Well, there are a growing number of platforms and technologies that prioritize user privacy and data security. Okay. These range from privacy-focused search engines like DuckDuckGo to encrypted messaging apps like Signal.
So instead of just accepting the default settings on our devices and apps, we can actually make choices that protect our data.
Exactly. And the more people who make those choices, the more demand there will be for privacy-respecting technologies.
Right.
It's about voting with our wallets and our clicks.
The article even suggests looking into decentralized social networks,
Okay.
which are platforms that aren't controlled by a single company.
That's right. Decentralized networks distribute power among users, making it much harder for any one entity to control the flow of information or censor dissenting voices.
It's like the difference between a top-down hierarchy and a more collaborative, community-driven approach.
Exactly. It's about shifting the balance of power and giving individuals more control over their online experiences.
But here's what really resonated with me. The article's central argument that robust free speech is the best weapon against propaganda and manipulation.
When we have a truly open and diverse marketplace of ideas, it becomes much harder for any single narrative to dominate.
It's like a healthy ecosystem.
Right.
The more biodiversity you have, the more resilient it is to threats.
Exactly. Propaganda thrives in the shadows, where dissenting voices are silenced and critical thinking is discouraged. Free speech shines a light on those shadows, allowing truth to prevail.
So it's not just about protecting our own right to speak freely.
Right.
It's about creating a space where all voices can be heard, where ideas can be debated openly, and where truth can emerge through the clash of competing perspectives.
That's what makes this deep dive so important. It's not just about uncovering the dark side of technology, but about empowering individuals to take action and build a better future.
It's a reminder that we have agency,
Yeah.
that our choices matter, and that we can collectively shape the digital world we want to live in.
As we wrap up our deep dive, into institutionalized mind control and digital manipulation, I'm curious what's resonating most with you. What's like that one big takeaway you're walking away with? Well, I think for me, it's the critical thinking piece,
Mm-hmm.
We've got to be so sharp these days, with all this information overload.
Yeah.
And we can't just passively absorb everything we see online.
Right.
We need to be discerning and we need to question everything.
It's like we need to develop mental antibodies,
Yes.
to filter out the harmful stuff while staying open to new ideas.
Exactly.
But how do we even begin to do that?
Well, first off, be mindful of your sources.
Right.
Don't just rely on algorithms to feed you information.
Right.
Do your own research, cross-check facts, and consider different viewpoints.
Why, yeah.
And don't be afraid to challenge narratives,
Mm-hmm.
even those you generally agree with.
It's about getting comfortable with discomfort, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes the truth isn't easy or convenient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And be aware of your own biases. I mean,
Uh-huh.
we all have them, and they can color how we perceive information.
Right.
So acknowledge those biases and be open to having them challenged.
It's tough,
Yeah.
but so important.
It is.
Otherwise, we just end up in those echo chambers where everyone's nodding along and no real learning's happening.
Right. And beyond that, be proactive about protecting your privacy.
Okay.
Take control of your settings, explore privacy-focused tools, and really understand what information you're sharing online.
So much of this stuff is like buried in the fine print.
It is.
It's worth digging into, though, right? Like, what are some specific steps people can take to boost their digital privacy?
We'll start simple. Use strong passwords, enable two-factor authentication, be cautious about what you share on social media, and then look into privacy-focused tools.
Okay.
VPNs can encrypt your internet traffic, making it harder for others to track you. And encrypted messaging apps like Signal protect your conversations from prying eyes.
It's like building a digital fortress.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Right.
There are entire communities dedicated to digital privacy and freedom of speech. Connect with them, share resources, and learn from each other.
It's that idea of collective action again.
Yeah.
When we work together, we can make a real difference. And that's what I find so inspiring about this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of these systems. But the article reminds us that individual actions matter.
They do.
Every choice we make online, from the content we consume to the tools we use, shapes the digital landscape. And collectively, those choices have immense power. So, dear listener, as we sign off, remember this. You have the power to choose. You have the power to question. And you have the power to make a difference. Choose wisely, question fearlessly, and let your voice be heard.
That's the best way to combat manipulation and build a more free and open internet for everyone.